Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today I'm going to give 6 reasons why I prefer the daily Mass over the Sunday Mass. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti, Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, sic ut in principio, et nunc et semper, et saecula saeculorum. Amen. Now I think a lot of you, your instant thought would be because it's shorter. No, that's actually not one of the reasons, but that would be the obvious one. And I think maybe some of you guys will have another obvious answer, but we'll see if it's one of those 6. Now understand, like, the Mass is a public, it's a memorial of the sacrifice of Christ. It is also a public kind of affirmation of our belief. That's why we do the creed. That's why, one of the reasons why Protestants cannot receive the Eucharist, because by receiving the Eucharist, you're essentially publicly affirming that you believe in everything the Catholic Church teaches. So the Mass is exceedingly important for that and for a host of other reasons. Now, personally, with my foibles, faults, and issues, I like the daily Mass, and I am very blessed to be able to go to daily Mass every day but Saturday. I'm just very blessed. And it wasn't always the case in my life, but there was a time about 15 years ago where I worked right next to the cathedral in Austin, where I was able to walk a block for lunch to go. And now I live in a time in my life where I can go to the 8 a.m. Mass at where I go to in New Braunfels, and then come over here to the tea shop right afterwards to open it. So because of that, I am very blessed to be able to go to daily Mass. Now understand, the parish I go to is packed. It is the largest parish of the Archdiocese of San Antonio. And it has like 7,000 families. So if you go to any of the Masses on Sunday, they're all full, even 7:30. Even the vigil Mass at 5:30, which I don't particularly like the music, it's always packed. And so the daily Masses, they have 2 daily Masses. They have one at 8 o'clock and one at 12:10. Those probably on average, on a given Tuesday during ordinary time, probably have about 80 people. I mean, so this is a very vibrant parish. And I want to give kudos to Saints Peter and Paul, which is the name of the parish, and the pastor that runs it, and just the people there. It's not a perfect parish by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a vibrant parish. Now, what are some of the 6 reasons? And these are in no particular order. One of them, I think, is just simply the excessive music. Now, this is the obvious one. Now, I'm not saying music in general, because we are really meant, if you look at the general section of the Roman Missal, like, it is encouraged that we do sing the responsorial psalm, that we do sing the Gloria, if there is a Gloria, like if it's a feast day during the week. We are expected to kind of sing these songs. So it's not singing per se. What I mean by excessive singing is, during the communion, there'll be the typical Novus Ordo Mass, maybe a minimum 2 songs. And normally the second song is one where we have to listen to the choir because it's a song that they don't tell us what it is in the hymnal. And so we have to listen to as spectators. And this goes back, and we have plenty of episodes here, what's wrong with Catholic hymnody and what's wrong with the typical Catholic choir today in the typical Our Lady of Suburbia Catholic parish. So it's the excessive music. I don't mind singing the Gloria. There are some melodies of the Gloria that I think are not as good as some other ones, and I wish they would bring back some of the ones that would encourage more men to sing them. That's not the problem. It's just the excessive singing. Number 2 is going to be seeing things that I'm not a particular big fan of, which would be extraordinary ministers and female acolytes. Now, stop the front door here. Now, we have episodes on as to why I think both of these things are bad ideas. Now, one of the proponents of both of these things would be, well, it's discriminatory if we don't have female acolytes, but I think people forget in kind of the 21st century wokeism that we have even in the church, why we don't have female acolytes, or why we didn't have female acolytes or altar servers for quite some time. And I think if you ask a priest that was pretty honest, that hasn't been indoctrinated by the spirit of Vatican II, they would tell you that, it inhibits boys from wanting to be acolytes, because at that age, boys don't want to be around girls. So that's one of the reasons. And then with the extraordinary ministers, you see them, they all come, all 25 of them. That is a hyperbole. Normally it's 12. They'll all come up. They stand in the sanctuary, and again, I used to go to the ordinary of the Chair of St. Peter. They don't use that, and they have a lot of people. So there is a way where you can still distribute the Eucharist in a timely manner by only using a priest and a deacon. It is possible to do it. But again, this is all in the name of inclusiveness, that we want to use extraordinary ministers, many of which are not properly dressed to even be seen in front. They could be wearing, untucked shirts or shorts even, I've seen, and so you don't see those in daily mass, right? There's no need for either of these in daily mass. The acolytes in the daily mass, there might be one, and at the church I go to, typically it's an adult, but if it's not an adult, it's typically going to be a young boy. What's another one? I don't have to see the Judases that are leaving right after receiving the Eucharist. We talked about the episode I did on priesters or CEOs, how I went to a Christmas Mass at the same parish, and I was sitting in the second to back row, and after the Eucharist, literally my daughter and I and 4 other people were in those back 7 rows. Everyone else was gone. There were 6 of us, everyone else was gone. So you see that at daily mass, of course, that people receive the Eucharist, they think of it as a participation token, and then they're off. And you don't see that really in daily mass. And look, with daily mass, understand, since it's not an obligatory mass that you have to go to, if you got to leave early because you got to go to work, it's fundamentally different. Ideally, of course, we don't want to leave until the mass is over. Preferably you go to a parish that will say the St. Michael prayer. But if you have to leave, you have to leave. The other one is just kind of and this might be only specific to my parish. In the Sunday Masses, it's packed. So you're like closed in like sardines. And daily Mass, I mean, literally, because I go to a very large church, the church itself has a lot of pews, you have a lot of space, even if there's 80 people that go to it. But in the Sunday Masses, you're all kind of packed in. And then, as we've talked about before, do we do the peace offering or do we not shake hands anymore? That's a minor one. And then the last one, I guess, would be the posturing. What do I mean by the posturing? This would be the opposite of the Judases that leave early. I do see maybe more in the Sunday Masses the overly pious practices that are done by the traditional Catholics. And I just don't see this in the daily Mass. In the daily Mass, typically, is going to be people who are really into the faith, and it's like the same people, the same 80 people. I just see sometimes maybe overtly over pious posturing in the daily Mass or in the Sunday Mass. And I think the reason I see this more in the Sunday than the daily is because there is going to be a little, and people will deny it, a little performative aspect when you go to Sunday Mass, because it's that kind of Pharisaic tendency that we as the fall from the fall of Adam and Eve have, like, look at me, like the Pharisee versus the publican, the story in Luke. Look at me, look at me. I got to show how trad Cathy I am, and because there's a lot of people around, right? Whereas you go to daily Mass, that tends to be gone. You don't really see that. So those are the 6 reasons. Now, would I say time? On some level, yes, the daily Masses are shorter. I used to go to a parish in San Antonio that the daily Mass, kid you not, was 15 minutes with a homily. Remember, homilies are optional. With a homily. The typical daily Mass where I go to, St. Peter and Paul, is maybe 25 to 35, depending on what who the pastor is. But I would say, like, if there was a way, I would not say that I would want a Sunday Mass to be 35 minutes, because it is a greater liturgy, and of course there's going to be singing and whatnot. But I do like that kind of aspect of the daily Mass where they need to be short. They shouldn't be an hour because people have to go to work, whatever time that you have them. But I would not say that's one of the 6 reasons for sure. But I would definitely say the music would definitely be one of them. Guys, post in the comments if you agree with me or if you don't agree with me. But if you prefer daily Mass over Sunday Mass, what are some reasons? Until next time, take care and God bless.